So recently the Dark Conservatarian made a video response to one of my videos and some Facebook posts, and I've decided I will make a video response. I was going to do this live, and then I realized I'd rather just edit this. There's something nostalgic about making an edited video response, and I would advise those who watch, get a drink, maybe some food, or just some snacks. Maybe even get high a little bit, because, this is the most shrill video of his I've seen in recent memory, and, if I had some gummies, I'd probably pop one just to take this all in. Hell, maybe he should take a gummy and calm the fuck down. So a while back, the Dark Conservatarian and I were having some disagreements in public with regards to certain things I've said regarding Charlie Kirk.
Whatever happened there?
All right then. Whatever happened there?
The shooting.
Whatever happened there?
God rest his soul, man.
I'll tell you what fucking happened. This piece of shit's cousin put
down,
6
Phil.
bullets in the kid without any provocation whatsoever.
My cousin's dead.
Fuck you.
Or immigration, or what have you, and I made a video on New Year's Eve of 2025, basically saying farewell to 2025, and he got upset at something I said within the first 35 seconds of the video, which I will play here now. I'd like to begin this video dedicating it in tribute to my dog Bear Satterfield. He, on November 19th, 2025, passed over to the other side because of cancer that spread to his bones and vital organs, and fluids that were on his said organs were making life untenable. In the end, he mattered more than Charlie Kirk. Funnily enough, that clip, I had said those words at the very end, and as I was editing this on iMovie, I decided I would bring that clip up to the front, because given how, Trump supporters have treated me over the last 11 years, not being civil with me in disagreements, I decided, you know what, if any of them happen to see that video, I am more than happy to stick it to them one more time for 2025. And in the end, I really don't feel bad if this hurt DarkCon's feelings or upset him, because really, that's not my problem. Again, he is showing more emotion over a random podcaster than his own wife ever did. So DarkCon says, first 35 seconds, you couldn't help but be a prick, Skylar. That was uncalled for. I wanted to empathize with you on the loss of your dog, Bear. Bear was a very good boy. Contributed more to society than Charlie Kirk ever did. Really, I did. But you just had to ruin it and make it all partisan with your Charlie Kirk comment. Except it wasn't partisan, though, was it? I wasn't advocating a viewpoint or trying to encourage someone to do one thing or the other. All I did was make a joke at Charlie Kirk's expense, because jokes about his assassination will never get old, just like him. And then I responded, I can't say I regret any of it. And for some reason, Jeremiah Harding's profile picture is covering DarkCon's. I really do not understand how that's happening, but that's what's going on. He responds to me, where do you get off on the idea of mocking the death of other people in the middle of a eulogy for one of your own? Because I can, and because there's nothing you or anyone else can do about it, and Bear was infinitely more respectable than Charlie Kirk, easily. What if it happened to AOC, for example, and then my family dog, Bandit, died a few months later, and in the middle of me eulogizing that dog, I decided to mock the death of AOC just out of nowhere? I wouldn't give a shit. I wouldn't give a shit if you did that. You know why? Because I'm not going to mourn the death of a politician. Just like how I didn't mourn the death of a podcaster. I'm not going to say those kind of things should happen, those deaths, but making jokes about it is perfectly fine. It's happened forever. People were fine with making jokes about police brutality and suicide and genocide, but apparently, making fun of the death of a podcaster is going too far. Making jokes about JFK and RFK Sr., that's fine. Now, I'm not saying DarkCon is that way. I'm just saying people who whine too much about the jokes being made, it's like, you guys, we hear this, get a sense of humor, but seriously, at the end of the day, it is just a joke, and nobody forced you to be offended by it. And then I simply replied, I mean, Bear was not a racist in response, because, Charlie Kirk absolutely was racist about black women, prowling blacks, quote-unquote. He supported a president who was saying stupid shit like, they're eating the dogs.
The people that came in, they're eating the cats. They're eating the pets
of the people that live there.
Things like that. And before I forget to mention, the Dark Conservatarian and I have spoken about his votes for Donald Trump, and he has told me he does regret voting for the president. And before I forget to mention, all I will say is, how come it took so long to realize that you regret that? I mean, how much more would it have taken? And how come that didn't come about much sooner, given everything we know about this president? And then, the Dark Conservatarian said in response to me, there was also not a violence-promoting socialist. Now answer that question.
And if I don't, what the fuck you gonna do then?
Should I then mock AOC's hypothetical death in the middle of a eulogy for my family's dog? Or better yet, how about Hassan Piker, who's even more inflammatory than AOC? First of all, I have never celebrated, as far as I can remember, anyone's death, but, I could make an exception for Hassan Piker. Actually, no, wait, I did celebrate the death of Henry Kissinger, and I will of Donald Trump.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein?
I call it the Epstein hoax.
Are people still talking about this guy, this great
The Epstein hoax.
Jeffrey Epstein? Epstein?
I call it the Epstein hoax.
That is unbelievable.
I call it the Epstein hoax.
Benjamin Netanyahu, and I also celebrated Dick Cheney's, I did celebrate those, so my retraction there. But if it happened to Hassan Piker, yeah, he's an animal abuser, and he is a terrible person. As for if you did that about AOC or Hassan Piker, I wouldn't give a shit. Those people don't mean anything to me. Bear meant something to me. A random podcaster did not.
Before anyone else makes a mention about me taking this personally, damn right I am. Skylar is a longtime friend, yet in this video, and even with the original post in question, he isn't acting very friendly.
No offense, DarkCon, but that kind of sounds like a personal problem.
And Skylar, before you make any mention about how you didn't intend this comment or that comment to be an insult directed at me, well, I'm going to explain it to you how I take offense at some of them, but also recognize that I don't have the benefit of hindsight in making this video if and when you say I wasn't talking about you when I said that.
Further, no offense, but you could not be further from my mind whenever I make any post whatsoever about any subject. I'm not really sure what more you want from me on that one.
First thing I want to address is, what the fuck is with this thumbnail, Skylar? You have the video titled as addressing me particularly, and you chose a meme of some old Trumpist as the thumbnail? Like, why didn't you use a picture of my Ransona next to the ICE logo, or a picture of Renee Good instead of a picture of a Trumpist when you know that I'm factually not a Trumpist? I'm not saying that you're intentionally trying to frame me as a Trump worshiper, or even as a casual Trump supporter, but still, it's a lazy and misleading thumbnail, and you should know better that there are some idiots who will take this to mean that the person you're addressing is a Trumpist when really, he isn't.
Well, I used that thumbnail mainly because while the video was addressed to you primarily, you weren't the sole focus of the video. I was talking about the subject in general. Now, I'm not going to say that I should have just used that thumbnail. Sure, I could have used your Ransona or Renee Good's picture, but at the end of the day, I just decided I'm going to use a placeholder thumbnail, and I just never really seriously considered what other thumbnail I could have used. So I can't blame you for not liking the thumbnail. As far as I am concerned, it is not the war crime of the century, but you'll get a new thumbnail for that video. So, I recently made a few posts on Facebook that have upset the Dark Conservatarian.
For the record, only one of them really upset me. The other one only just confused me, is all.
And I can't say I feel too bad about it.
I sincerely hope that the only reason why you say this, Skylar, is because you genuinely don't know what exactly my beef is with your one post, and not that you're just about ready to cut our friendship off for good or something.
The reason I say it is because your reaction is way out of proportion. This is not like I insulted your mother, or doxed you, or anything like that. I may have been insensitive, I may have been a bit brash or abrasive in how I reacted to your overreaction, but it's not like I did something objectively terrible that ruined your life. You see, I have been a Trump critic from the beginning.
What the fuck does Trump and you being a critic of him have anything to do with me or even the broader issue at hand?
First of all, calm the fuck down. Second of all, the only reason I mentioned the president this early on is because I am trying to communicate to those who may not be named the Dark Conservatarian, because there are a few people out there who fit that description, to give them some context as to where I stand, because sadly we live in a society where basically you talk about one subject and automatically the idiots assume you lean one way or the other. There is nuance where you can oppose open borders while thinking that the federal government has gone too far on immigration, and you can think the president is a dirty son of a bitch. And it's not just because he says mean things, it's because he's a demented rapist, convicted felon, thief, and utter degenerate. And from the moment he said, they're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, fucking TikTok and their stupid rules. The minute he said that, I immediately said, nope, I would never vote for this man. Ever. I don't give a shit what he does. That kind of behavior is unbecoming.
I thought I'd just let that play out longer to emphasize how much of a non sequitur I think this point is. And as you'll see as we get further along in this video, at no point was Trump brought up in either of the two posts, nor either of my comments to his posts that sparked this scuffle with me and Skylar to begin with.
I will refer you to my previous response. Every MAGA out there would not accept that kind of behavior from their daughter's boyfriend, but they would accept it from the guy that has the nuclear codes. It just shows it's a fucking cult.
That isn't really why Trump cultists are Trump cultists, but whatever.
I mean, they advocate voting for the president, saying he would do A, B, and C if re-elected in 2024. He is re-elected in 2024. He has betrayed almost every promise he made them. One of the few promises he keeps are the ones that he doesn't have to go to Congress over. Beyond that, he either has not fulfilled a promise or he has actively gone the other way on the issue that he was voted in to tackle. And yet, the vast majority of Republican voters are still on his side. Will still vote how he tells them to. At the end of the day, there is no reason not to call them a cult. If Donald Trump demanded their daughters, they would probably give up their kids to him in exchange for his political support or to keep him happy. I mean, you can call it fucked up all you want, me saying that, but am I wrong? Have we not seen how unhealthy of an obsession that the MAGAs have for this president? Like, it's one thing to be like, yeah, I'm okay with so-and-so being in office or running for office. Like, yeah, I'll vote for him, no problem. These people, if there were no term limits and Trump just kept running for office till he died, they would vote for him. He would have maybe about 46 to 49% of the vote. It is unhealthy, their obsession with this man. Being critical of the president and his policies is not being obsessed or Trump derangement syndrome or whatever those MAGA idiots say. Well, they try to distract from the fact that he's a pedophile and hasn't released the Epstein files. Merely holding a politician accountable is a healthy thing. These people put him on a pedestal, they worship him. They are just as bad as men who think strippers paying them attention somehow means they now have a girlfriend. DarkCon got all bitchy at me because I shared a post from a guy named Tony Rush.
A friend of yours got upset because a post you shared implies that he's a bad person, and you call that bitchy?
Yes, I would call that bitchy. You were overreacting big time to a goddamn Facebook post. So with all due respect, calm down. And maybe if you're going to get as upset as you got over the murder of a podcaster, maybe you should have that same kind of energy when the state kills a person, slanders them as a terrorist, and says she tried to run someone over with her car when she did not. Just saying. The post said, if you were loud about Charlie Kirk's unaliving, but quiet about ICE unaliving a woman in cold blood, you're one of the bad guys. The Dark Conservatarian says in response to me, fuck you, Skylar. What kind of an echo chamber are you in to think this extreme about this subject? That anybody who was vocally against Kirk's unaliving, but doesn't say much about the Renee Good unaliving, is a bad person. When they are celebrating what happened to her,
this has got to be the most tone-deaf reading of a text exchange that I've ever seen from you, Skylar. Do you not hear yourself? First, you read the post from Tony Rush that talked about people who did not speak about Renee Good. Then you read my comment that also explicitly talked about people who did not speak about Renee Good. And then you make it about people who celebrated Renee Good's death? For better or for worse, you ended up shifting the goalpost, Skylar.
I could have said what I said with more finesse. I wasn't trying to change the subject or shift the goalpost or anything like that. I wanted to talk about everything involving Renee Good's death, not just those who were silent, but those who justified or celebrated what happened to her, despite the fact she did not hit that man with her car. Because, if she's going to hit him, she's going to make sure that she doesn't miss. But in any case, my apologies. And I'm not going to be lectured by a Zionist cocksucker like Loudmouth Reviews over pussy shit, as he was calling me out for using words like unalived to avoid being censored by either YouTube or TikTok. And honestly, I didn't like using those terms to avoid the censors, but apparently trying to avoid the censors is somehow pussy shit, something he probably never ever gets in his life.
And this situation is like two friends hanging out with each other, one atheist and one Christian, and the Christian says atheists are bad people. And then the atheist says, fuck you, I'm not a bad person. And the Christian says, what? Why are you getting all bitchy?
After crying about Charlie Kirk more than his own bitch wife ever did.
What the fuck? What is with all this bitter vitriol over Erica Kirk? Did she insult you, or a group you happen to fall under or something? This doesn't make any sense.
You know, that is a good question, DarkCon. I'm not quite sure what the vitriol could be. Wait. I'm realizing the bitch isn't a grieving widow. She is a grifter, just like her husband, just like Trump, just like Vance. Charlie was all about women being in the home, and yet his wife is running a company that was his. She's clearly not grieving when she has fireworks at the memorial. I mean, Jesus, who needs haters when you have a wife like that who just pretends to miss you? You know, when the White House was apparently shot up, she was crying as they were escorting her out, and she was saying that she wanted to go home, but no one's forcing her to stay away from home. No one is forcing her to not be there to raise her two kids. No one is forcing her to do any of that. It kind of tells me all I need to know about them. Just saying.
So, just for context's sake, and to be fair, he says all I need to know about them, and not all I need to know about you, or you people. So possibility that he was never intentionally trying to attack me with that stupid post he shared, but still, I'll refer back to my Christian and atheist friend example I posed earlier.
I hate to break it to you, Zach, but not everything in this world is going to revolve around you.
Because I'm still catching stray bullets from a friend here.
Just like Charlie Kirk. Ah! Oh man. DarkCon continues. In my opinion, it was a clean pew-pew. Remember, it's TikTok and their stupid rules.
More reason for me to never bother getting a TikTok. Closest thing for me will be YouTube Shorts.
Pity that it happened, but she practically clipped the guy with her car right beforehand.
Actually, I was originally downplaying what happened. She didn't just clip him, she full-on hit him with the corner of her car about where her headlight was at. And he shot her roughly at the same time he was hit, not the immediate second afterward.
Whereas Kirk was just plain pewed in cold blood for speaking his opinions. Not equivalent.
I'm just gonna say it right now because he doesn't come back to this at any point later, but why didn't you in your video address the false equivalence part that I addressed of Tony Rush's post, Skylar? Comparing a straight up cold-blooded shot from afar because one guy didn't like the other guy's opinions on politics versus a much messier situation where at best both parties were scared for their lives.
I simply forgot to go back to the equivalence statement. I wasn't trying to ignore it, I just simply forgot. Hence why this is more scripted and even more careful on the wording to not hurt his feelings. Here's the deal. Charlie Kirk was a racist piece of shit, a propagandist, a liar, a hypocrite, and a smug piece of shit. That does not justify whatever happened there on September 10th to him. Renee Good went to an ICE protest, and unfortunately for her, that was the last thing she ever did in this life. She was shot and killed by an ICE agent who falsely claimed she hit him with her car, versus Charlie Kirk, who was murdered by a guy most likely because the guy didn't like his opinions, even though, of course, it's always going to be disputed no matter what as to whether or not his motives were because of Charlie Kirk being a MAGA or just because of other unusual reasons, because I know people like to claim the shooter was a Republican, and either way, it really doesn't matter to me, because if he killed Charlie Kirk, yes, he should go to prison for it. And when people say it could not possibly be a Trump supporter who shot Charlie Kirk, people need to understand that when people commit acts of violence, it isn't always because of purely ideological reasons. As to why it would happen then, honestly, you've got me. Well, I don't know what video you saw.
The one that debunks the leftist narrative on this story before I even saw the post in question.
I am sorry to say, DarkCon, and you're gonna have to forgive me, but when I see a video title that calls the murder of George Floyd a hoax, remember, the murder was on video the entire time. When I see a video calling that murder a hoax, I am automatically inclined to not really seriously consider what they have to say, or to even assume that they're going to act in good faith. But the one I saw, she's clearly turning the car away from the guy.
Not near enough to avoid hitting him,
but not too little to prove that she was trying to assault him. And he was so in fear for his life, and he was so in danger, he called her a fucking bitch right afterward.
Damn right he did. If a woman just hit me with her car, even clipped me with her side mirror, I'd call her a bitch too. Or an idiot at least. And truthfully, you would too, Skylar.
Yeah, I would if the car is coming directly at me, and if it's not, I'm getting the fuck out of the way. I'm not putting myself in danger getting that close to a car when it's actively moving.
as evidenced by the fact that you called Erica Kirk a bitch.
Crying about Charlie Kirk more than his own bitch wife ever did.
So you don't get to virtue signal about people calling other people names in this case.
Oh, fuck off. Erica Kirk is a fake grieving widow who is profiting off her husband's death by running a company even though he believed that women shouldn't be anywhere outside the home, versus a woman who made the terrible decision to go to an ICE protest, given that ICE is very abusive towards civil liberties and is full of unqualified people who cannot handle tricky situations. Pardon my language, DarkCon, but that's just a bunch of horse shit.
Horse shit my ass. As you can clearly see from Officer Ross's point of view, he clearly got his leg hit by the corner of Renee's car. Could have even got partially ran over if he had worse footing.
Then get the fuck out of the way.
And from this camera POV, you can see even clearer Officer Ross getting smacked.
Ross walks around the front of the SUV, while another agent can be heard telling Good to get out of the car. Good's wife tries to open the door, as Good reverses and begins to drive away. The camera goes down as Ross, who is still standing, yells out, then fires 3 shots. Seconds later, a voice is heard cursing Good, who crashes her car down the road.
Also, why is he grabbing onto the car? Some basic common sense and decent training would have taught him to not grab onto the car at all.
And it's not like this engagement is totally without harm to Ross either, as it's reported that he suffered internal injuries after the day with Renee Good. Hard to tell if these injuries are actually from a previous engagement with a car hitting him and then they were just opened back up from Renee hitting him, or if Renee hitting him caused new ones rather belatedly, but still.
Then he should have been reduced to desk duty until his injuries healed all the way. In June 2025, he was doing a traffic stop in Bloomington, Minnesota, and he was trying to arrest someone in a car. He broke the window and was reaching in to unlock the door. The driver, probably in a panic, accelerated the car, dragging him some 50 yards or 45 meters. And at that point, after having that happen and then grabbing onto the car in 2026, he is just too stupid to be in law enforcement. And yeah, I'm certain Renee Good was in fear for her life. You have a psychopath with a gun and a badge and basically the permission from the Trump administration to kill with impunity coming at you. Yeah, I'd want to get the hell out of there too. And nothing in that clip indicated that she was deliberately trying to assault him with her car. And if she hit him with her car, it is because he grabbed onto the car. So it is his fault.
And even if it was not intentional on Good's part to hit an ICE agent while making her get away, that doesn't clear her as innocent. There are still criminal charges for even accidentally hitting somebody with your car, you know?
Yes, and she would have every single right to defend herself against those charges in court. And a jury would be able to decide if she had intentionally or not hit an officer's car. And just because she hit someone with her car, and we'll say for the sake of the point it was unintentional, that does not mean her actions rose to a level of reckless endangerment that would justify her being convicted and sentenced to a term of imprisonment that would be carried out by the state.
She still hit him. She did not turn away enough from Ross to avoid hitting him.
It is not outside the realm of possibility that a jury would see it differently.
Nor even waited like 1 or 2 seconds more to let him get fully out of the way before quickly accelerating away.
When a masked psycho is approaching your vehicle with a gun, you're not exactly wanting to stick around for very long at all, now are you?
But even then, I'm not willing to rule out malice on Good's part. As shown in this freeze frame, she was looking directly at him, seeing that he was still in the way, almost with a giddiness in her eye as she's biting her lip. But I'm also not yet willing to rule out she was not malicious, but was just plain stupid at the same time, for the record.
How the fuck does a smirk on someone's face prove anything? She could have been smirking thinking that this guy is overcompensating big time by being an ICE agent. She could have thought he is being way over the top here, or any number of things that might make a person smirk. That does not mean at all in the slightest that she was thinking, I'm gonna run this son of a bitch over.
Maybe it can be argued that Ross could have handled the situation better, but that's only in hindsight really. And the heat of the moment is different and when the benefit of the doubt is more given.
That's one hell of a double standard, isn't it?
Damn right I am. Absolutely retarded. But that's only in hindsight.
And I can make that same case in giving grace for Renee Good as you would for giving grace to Jonathan Ross. And by the way, he is a member of law enforcement. He is supposed to have training. He's not supposed to be a complete and utter pussy. Versus a private citizen who, as far as I've been able to find, has no ties to law enforcement whatsoever, and thus is not going to be prepared to deal with that kind of situation like how a member of law enforcement would be able to.
maybe it can be argued that Ross could have handled the situation better.
You think? They found no weapons of any kind on Miss Good when she was removed from her car after she died. There was no evidence to indicate that she was going to pose a threat to anybody. And while yes, she was in a car, that clip showed no evidence whatsoever, and her smirk doesn't prove a goddamn thing about any intent of trying to hit and kill or even just seriously injure anybody while she was there. And he is a member of law enforcement. He doesn't get to panic like this. He gets the benefits. He gets the power. He gets to have all these protections. His life gets to matter more than the private citizens that he's supposedly trying to protect. He could have handled this significantly better.
Really, and the heat of the moment is different and when the benefit of the doubt is more given.
Oh, I agree. So that's why he should have done something other than kill her.
And ultimately, addressing the Tony Rush post once more, if there's anything that the huge debate over the Renee Good shooting has shown, is that it's a lot messier than the Charlie Kirk assassination, that comparing the two is absolutely retarded. And maybe that's why a lot of people who spoke out against the Kirk assassination haven't spoke out about the Good shooting, not because they're the bad guy.
I don't think it's messy to say that nobody should have died on either day. And I also don't see it as messy to say that with Charlie Kirk that he did not deserve to die. And if I had an unkill button, I'd press it for him without any hesitation. He does not deserve to be a martyr, then we can avoid ever hearing Erica Kirk's name. And it's not retarded to compare how MAGAs wanted the government to have a goddamn war against those who made jokes about Charlie Kirk's assassination versus those who were indifferent or celebratory of the state killing Renee Good. Those who said nothing about her death were indifferent to it. That is a pretty objective and impartial term to use. Personally, I think that every ICE agent should be given no quarter. And let me define what I mean by no quarter so no one can use this against me. I mean in terms of if you know someone who's an ICE agent, tell them they're not welcome anywhere. Whether it be in public or if they were a friend or a relative or a partner or whatever. If I had children and they were in ICE, sorry guys, my kids are dead to me. I would not tolerate or put up with them being in ICE.
Are you really so politic-brained that you're losing all ability to individualize people, Skylar? Somebody who's worked just as a desk clerk in an ICE office has nowhere near the same moral culpability as an ICE field agent who brutalizes a Mexican. Just to put forth an extreme example.
No, I just know what my values are, and I'm pretty firm with them. A few years ago, I went on a date at Applebee's with someone who turned out to be a MAGA idiot. And it was very clear as soon as I heard her start talking about how the election of 2020 was stolen, I just knew, alright, she is too stupid to matter. We split the bill, and then I got the hell out of there. And yes, I can individualize people. And when people work for certain organizations or groups, I can immediately tell that they do not have a moral compass. If you are a desk clerk at the ICE office, you don't have the exact same culpability as someone who brutalizes a Mexican like an ICE agent. But the fact is, you are choosing to work for that group. You are choosing to work for ICE. And if you are not approving of how ICE handles itself and you're still working there, I don't know what to tell you. And saying, either you pick this family or you pick a paramilitary terrorist organization. What's it going to be?
I swear, the term terrorist has lost all meaning.
Well, yeah, the President of the United States calls anyone he doesn't like a terrorist or a radical or whatever. You know, I love how 10 years ago so many people were complaining about social justice warriors, SJWs, feminists, and, you know, how people were using the word Nazi like they would use the word hello. Yet, 10 years later, here we have people using terrorist or anti-Semite when someone criticizes the Israeli government or the Prime Minister, like Loudmouth Reviews does. But in this case, the President has made ICE his bitch and his enforcement tool.
ICE is not an independent political organization. It's a tool of the government that has been used to different extremes by Bush, Obama, Trump, and Biden. Hard to call it terrorist when its agenda keeps on changing with the presidential administrations.
It's not hard to call it a terrorist organization when the sitting president of the United States launches ICE raids into the cities, snatching up people who are legal immigrants or natural-born citizens of this country. And when he hires people who have past convictions for various crimes like domestic violence or are people who do not have training necessary to deal with the public, and they are willing to use excessive force to achieve a political end for the President of the United States.
And before anybody plays whataboutism with me with the fact that the Trump camp is calling Renee Good a terrorist, I think that's stupid too. It's not like there's any evidence to show that she had premeditated intent or plans to kill some ICE agents in the name of the political belief of open borders or something like that.
Well, there you go. I agree with you. And that's why she shouldn't have been killed, is because there was no proof of any of that, of her being a terrorist or whatever. Then I made a post on the 10th, quote, "The dissolution of ICE is non-negotiable at this point." The DarkCon basically says, and I'm going to summarize, he says he's confused about my current immigration beliefs. He says, "I recall you in a recent video saying you're against illegal immigration and mentioning how you don't like illegal immigrants taking advantage of our welfare system, but you're also seemingly against ICE deporting illegal immigrants. First of all, illegal immigrants cannot get access to the federal social safety net."
No, a good chunk of them do take federal welfare. About 47% on WIC and or SNAP at least, whether it's technically legal for them or not. Granted, it can be hard to delineate the differing stats between actual illegal immigrants and legal non-citizen residents for obvious reasons, but still, it's not like it's zero, Skylar. Not even close to zero.
Illegal immigrants are ineligible for most federal welfare programs due to federal law, though there are exceptions for emergencies and essential services. One of the big federal restrictions is the Personal Responsibility and Work Opportunity Reconciliation Act of 1996. It restricts access to federal public benefits for those who are not classified as qualified aliens. Qualified aliens include lawful permanent residents like green card holders, refugees, asylees, certain parolees, and a few other narrowly defined groups. Illegal immigrants fall outside that category, and they're banned from receiving most programs like cash assistance like TANF, SNAP, food stamps, Medicare, and non-emergency Medicaid, supplemental security income, unemployment insurance, and federal housing assistance. And if that law is being violated because people are getting those benefits, then just enforce the goddamn law. Like, I don't have a problem with enforcing immigration law, and I have zero compassion for those who illegally enter the country. We should not be having ICE raids without proof that we're snatching up those who are illegally in the United States. As for those exceptions, there's emergency medical care under the Emergency Medical Treatment and Labor Act, and hospitals cannot delay screening to ask about insurance or immigration status. They have to stabilize you. They cannot let you die just because you're an illegal immigrant or if you don't have insurance. Public health services like immunizations and treatments for communicable diseases, nutrition programs like WIC, education school meals for children, which was decided in Plyer versus Doe in 1982, which ruled states cannot deny public education to children based on their undocumented immigration status under the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment to the Constitution. Now, if you want to have Plyer versus Doe overturned, we can have that conversation, absolutely. And then there are things like shelters and soup kitchens not based on income. Federal law does not prevent states from using their own funds to assist undocumented immigrants, like with health care coverage, food assistance, or cash programs for low-income undocumented residents, particularly children and pregnant women. Eligibility and generosity, of course, vary wildly between the states, which creates a patchwork of support depending on where you go. U.S.-born children and households with illegal immigrant parents remain fully eligible for federal benefits because there's a mixed status families thing. However, the household's undocumented members' income may partially affect the calculation of benefits, which means the eligible child may receive a prorated amount. So I am not wrong that they cannot access federal welfare. There are exceptions, legally speaking, and thanks to a Supreme Court decision, and yeah, there are states and local governments which do issue benefits. Now, if you want to have a federal law passed to ban that from happening altogether, I would not oppose it. Some states and cities are giving it to them.
Okay, is your problem with illegal immigrants that they're taking any welfare at all, no matter what level of government it's from?
Yes, absolutely.
Or just federal welfare? I don't think it's necessary yet for me to go back and listen to whatever video where you said you don't like illegals taking welfare. I just know that it was in one of your Charlie Kirk hate comment reading videos. But from what I recall, I don't think you differentiated right then between whether it's federal welfare or welfare in general that you don't want illegals taking.
I don't want them taking any welfare at any level.
And I certainly didn't give any differentiation in my statement. So it feels right now like you're just being needlessly pedantic to earn brownie points, Skylar.
You could not be any more wrong. Fuck you. Gavin Newsom in California wanted to give Medi-Cal benefits to illegal immigrants, and now he's having to back off that because he wants to be president, and he is a slippery motherfucker and a Patrick Bateman wannabe.
If there's at least one thing I had to look forward to when we get our next Democrat president, and trust me, it will happen, Trumpists, is when Skylar focuses his ire on Democrats.
Yeah, the reason I didn't exactly spend a lot of my time publicly commenting on everything the Biden administration was doing is because life was not going so smoothly and I had more important things to worry about. But if we get Gavin Newsom or whomever the silly bastard is that gets elected in 2028, I'll do my best to be more publicly critical. I have been consistently against illegal immigration. I have had people get pissy with me, saying no one's illegal on stolen land, and I stopped listening.
I'm just gonna skip past the rest of this because it's just stuff I mostly agree with. Just note that in the next clip when he says they, he means illegal immigrants.
Even if they do pay taxes, because funny thing, ICE has been grabbing people using IRS records. And that's funny because a lot of the MAGAs say they don't pay taxes, and yet they do. And I'm not going to be pedantic and say, they pay sales tax when they buy something, but like actual income tax and property tax, turns out they are taxpayers. Net taxpayers.
Okay, what's your source for that claim, Skylar, that illegal immigrants are net taxpayers? I hear this claim made a lot, especially on memes and general short posts on social media, but I barely, if ever, see anyone cite some actual numbers. They just mostly assert the claim is all. And you can say that also about the more simpleton Republican voters who are against illegal immigrants too, which, fair enough. But still, what's your source, Skylar?
Illegal immigrants who earn income in the United States generally pay federal income taxes, including Social Security and Medicare. They do that through workplace payroll deductions, often using an employer identification number, a borrowed Social Security number, or an individual taxpayer identification number, when they lack a valid Social Security number. In 2022, illegal immigrant workers contributed an estimated $25.7 billion in Social Security taxes and $6.4 billion in Medicare taxes. ITINs allow undocumented immigrants to file federal and state income tax returns legally and maintain compliance with United States tax law. Filing taxes can also create a financial record that may be helpful in future legal immigration applications. Although ITIN holders pay into the system, they are generally not eligible for federal benefits like the Earned Income Tax Credit or Social Security retirement benefits. Illegal immigrants also pay sales taxes on goods and services, property taxes either directly as homeowners or indirectly through rent, and state or local income taxes where applicable. In 2022, total state and local tax contributions by undocumented immigrants were approximately $37.3 billion. Some states like New York, California, Texas, and Florida generate over $1 billion each year from those taxpayers. It's about $96 to $100 billion annually, including federal, state, and local taxes. As national conservatives like to mention net taxpayers when they're talking about stripping civil liberties.
What the fuck were you talking about? That sounded like just a broken up, incomplete statement.
Then maybe you should have cut the video up better. I added that statement at the end with regard to net taxpayers, as that was the term that I had invoked during the last clip. Jesus.
And then you move on to say,
if you are for ICE deporting them, then isn't it evident?
Skylar misread what I said, so let me help. I actually said if you are for ICE deporting them, then it isn't evident.
Because you only seem to talk about the negative incidents regarding ICE and never about the stuff they do that you presumably do agree with. I agree with deporting illegal immigrants. I personally think that the sooner you're caught, the better. If you want to come to this country, yes, it should be legally. And here's the thing, DarkCon, and to any leftist who might make a video in response, I want you to hear me clearly. I want immigration reform.
I mean, theoretically, I do too, but I wonder sometimes if it's an actual technical reform that is needed, or if there's some other problem with the system outside of hard laws or regulations that causes immigration to be sometimes an overly long process. Some uppity or lazy paper pusher who needs firing, or something other.
The rules should apply to everybody. You shouldn't be able to become a citizen faster just because you have more money or you have connections. And I think an actual reform is not amnesty, it is just simply updating the rules, making them easier to understand, so that way the process is faster and more efficient. I believe that if you're from Mexico or Canada or wherever on this earth, and you are a peaceful, nonviolent individual, and you want to be a productive member of American society, I believe that it should go like this. You prove who you say you are. You pass a criminal background. You pass a civics test.
What about learning English? Should that be mandated for becoming a U.S. citizen too?
I don't think it would be a problem to say that you should understand English if you're going to live in the United States, given that not everyone is going to cater to you regarding a language barrier. But I wouldn't mind having things be in public where it's in English as the main language of the United States, and whatever is the second most common language in a given region being at the bottom as a translation. I personally would not have a problem with that. And then we just get you in a job training program after you take the oath of allegiance to the United States and help you find a place to live, and then that's it. You're an American citizen. It shouldn't take you 30 fucking years to go from starting out to the end.
Relating to the earlier point I made about reform, is there an actual hard law that says you must wait 30 years to be an American citizen if you had this condition or status relating to you, or is it just some other glitch in the system causing that length?
It's like a glitch in the system. There's nothing that says you have to wait 30 years. It's just sometimes the process is so slow, some people ended up having to wait that long, or maybe half that time, but still it is ridiculous and it shouldn't take more than a year at most.
Some people are not going to wait that long, and I can't say I blame them.
Are you just saying that to show some amount of empathy to migrants in the waiting line, or is this some kind of excuse making for at least a certain type of illegal immigrants?
It is the very limited empathy I have for illegal immigrants, and I do not see it as an excuse for them to enter the country illegally, as they should be deported the moment they're caught.
You know, as far as I'm concerned, ICE should be targeting just violent illegal immigrants.
You do know that other types of crimes, besides the act itself of illegally immigrating, can be committed by illegals that aren't necessarily violent too, right? From theft to fraud and other types of victimizing crimes that may not necessarily be violent.
Yeah, I should have rephrased that. I should have simply said those who are committing white or blue-collar crimes.
And on another note relating to Renee Good, I keep hearing that the illegal immigrant that Officer Ross and his team were trying to arrest was a domestic abuser. If true, that means that Renee Good tried intervening in the arrest of a violent illegal, even if she didn't know any better. But at the same time, I don't really know any better either, because I can't seemingly find a source that confirms if that's true or not. No matter how I word my search for such a factoid, Google and DuckDuckGo don't seem to want to show me any articles specifically talking about who it was that Officer Ross was trying to arrest. Just articles talking about Ross's, I guess, criminal past and how other ICE detention agents are abusing inmates. Nothing about the attempted arrestee of the day that Renee Good was shot. It's almost like the search algorithm is trying to suppress such a factoid.
Yeah, the internet is cooked when this kind of thing happens. And either way, if ICE doesn't want protests against them, then a good way to reduce a great number of the protests is to impose due process. Prove that the person you're trying to snatch is an illegal immigrant.
But ICE is out here grabbing people without any proof that they're illegally here. There is not a single reason for the illegal, racist deportation of legal, naturalized citizens and natural-born citizens.
The problem with what you just said there is that that's only happening a super minority of the time. As per according to ProPublica, or OPB, there's not even been 200 cases of U.S. citizens getting deported as of the releasing of this article in October of last year.
The number of wrongful deportations should be zero, and if ICE is not willing to be reformed, then they gotta go.
And that's not even factoring in the fact that a good chunk of that number are actually arrests of citizens who have been alleged to assault an officer or otherwise, not because an ICE agent idiotically thought they were an illegal. I agree with the general sentiment of what you just said there, Skylar, about how citizens should not be deported, but the argument here isn't about whether that action is wrong or not. It's about ICE's legitimacy.
Its legitimacy is tarnished when it is politicized by the president, and any of the misconduct that ICE does is never going to be held to account for, ever, not even under the next Democrat president.
And if one of the arguments for why ICE should be abolished is because they're deporting U.S. citizens, well, I don't think that 170 number is near large enough to imply that's a good reason to be anti-ICE, especially in comparison to the 675,000 total deportee number that I've been generally hearing. And this ProPublica article isn't even a right-wing source. If you read it, it's pretty left-leaning in its commentary, and one could probably do a whole video on it alone. But if even a left-leaning source can't tell us that the number of U.S. citizens being deported is even 1,000, then you know that number is tiny. Personally, I want to handle those cases and fix them with a scalpel, rather than take a sledgehammer to the organization as a whole, when ICE is seemingly sticking to the boundaries of their job generally. That is, if we're working with the framework that illegal immigration specifically is wrong, because obviously if you think that illegal immigration is no biggie, not saying Skylar is of that mindset, then it obviously goes without saying that you'd want ICE abolished regardless of how many of those deportation cases are of U.S. citizens or not.
The institution is full of rot when they lowered the qualifications of those who could be ICE agents. If you want to reform ICE and not abolish ICE, then anyone who was hired under this president after he said that we're going to lower the qualification threshold and eliminate the age cap, all of them have to go.
So when these assholes say, come legally, but they're still snatching up people even as they're about to take the oath of allegiance to this country, or they're going to an immigration court to comply with what's going on, that should tell you it wasn't about immigration following the law, it was about skin color.
Okay, give me an example of any mainstream conservative cheering on specifically the deportation of migrants who were literally about to take the oath of allegiance to become a U.S. citizen. And no, Nick Fuentes doesn't count. I'm sure that piece of shit is all for that and more. We've always known that for him, immigration has always been about skin color and not legal status.
I'm mainly talking about the president and his supporters, the ones who keep saying just come legally, and then they don't condemn when the administration is deporting people who are trying to comply with immigration law.
You know, because a lot of these MAGAs, including this president, why don't they come from Europe? Why do they have to come from these shithole countries, as this president said?
And as far as the Trump example goes, without any further dissection, I'll give the benefit of the doubt that he's being racist with that quote for right now. But where's the example of him wanting just any brown migrant about to take the oath of citizenship to be deported anyway?
He doesn't want them here, period. You know, when he says shit like they're poisoning the blood of the country, calls their country shitholes, so on and so forth.
You know, I'm not saying every MAGA voter's racist. I'm saying that racism is not a deal breaker for them.
On the topic of explicitly racist policies, I understand that being more of a deal breaker. It would be a deal breaker for me. For example, advocacy of a white ethno-state, that's a deal breaker for me. But if, say, in the future that Thomas Massie, Justin Amash, or even Rand Paul were to run for president, and they were found to have made some insensitive generalization of, say, Asians, for example, would that really be a deal breaker for you on whether you'd support them or vote for them or not? I certainly hope that wouldn't be the case, and I know that this isn't applicable for you and Trump, even if he was not racist, because you probably disagree with him like 80% of the time if I had to guess. But on the other three people I mentioned, hypothetically, you agree with them about 90% of the time. But if one of them makes even one racist comment or even multiple racist comments, your support for them goes out the window. Policy agreement be damned.
If one of them made a racist comment 30 years ago and it is very obvious that they are not that same person that they were 30 years ago, I'm more than willing to let that go. Hell, even if they made a comment 5 years ago and it is very clear they do not believe that anymore, I could let that go. But if there is no evidence that they have changed as a person, then I couldn't support them. And it would also really depend on if there was any alternative to them in the first place. Because if there is an alternative to them that I can largely agree with, I would probably gravitate towards them, because we should expect better from people who want to be in public life. You know, if they issued a clear apology, no excuses, they say simply, you know, I missed the mark on that, I shouldn't have said it, period, and I do offer my most sincere apology, I could let that go.
And of course I'm going to talk about mainly the negative incidents involving ICE. There's just so many to pick from.
Well, then don't be surprised when anyone accuses you of becoming a leftist or currently being a leftist. At least
If you hear my views on foreign and domestic policy and you somehow think I'm a leftist, you're functionally retarded, and you should not bother voting or having children. Aircraft Sparky has my respect because at least he can debate on an issue. Don the Pleb is just an alcoholic chain smoker with a terrible personality, and I would be surprised if he is still alive.
I'm paying the courtesy of asking you first what your beliefs are before I go asserting that you're a leftist. And just to be clear, I'm not saying don't talk about the negative incidents regarding ICE or any stuff that you genuinely disagree with them on, but depending on how broadly you're talking about the issue of ICE, it doesn't take much to say, I agree with deporting illegal immigrants and enforcing immigration law, but, and then continue on with the rest of your criticism about them. And more broadly speaking, as a right-winger who watches you, a self-proclaimed right-winger scholar who also wants to like your content, it sure would be nice if you uploaded some more videos tackling an issue from a right-wing perspective. But as of the last few months since taking the screen cap, out of 10 videos, only one of them was very clearly tackling an issue from the right, that being your most recent abortion video. The rest were tackling whatever issue from either a murky perspective or from an overall leftward perspective, with you throwing in maybe a tiny handful of right-wing talking points in some of them.
All I talked about in the Zohran Mamdani video was how the Republicans lost the 2025 local elections very badly, and that maybe attacking Zohran Mamdani over his faith probably was not going to win a general election. And yeah, there's a lot of videos I wanted to make last year that I didn't get around to, like Hassan Piker being a dog abuser, that racist bitch from Minnesota who got $500,000 for calling a brown kid the N-word. And by the way, anyone who donated to her is irredeemable and should have no role in society. And my views absolutely cement my credentials as a right-leaning individual. I will spare everyone the 15-minute lecture over what exactly my views are. And what's funny about the videos you highlighted is, you know, you can criticize the ideological bent of those videos all you want. What I did not hear from you or anyone in the comments was where I was wrong in what I said.
just a friendly suggestion. Take it or leave it.
Whether it was Renee Good or any of the other people that were unalived in 2025 thanks to this president giving ICE more funding than the military budget of several other countries. In fact, ICE has more federal funding than any law enforcement agency in this country at $100 billion.
I don't have time to talk about every little subtopic relating to ICE, and I don't think I need to go on about their funding for right now. At least, not that much. Do I have a general opinion about it? Well, we seem to be the #1 country for the biggest illegal immigrant population in the world right now, and so it makes some sense why funding would be so high for whatever organization is used to enforce immigration law and deport most to all the illegals. That's all I'll say for right now.
Then if the president is going to spend that much money on ICE, he should not be cutting taxes that dramatically when he can't pay for it. He can't even afford to pay for the new ICE funding. He can't pay for the tax cuts. The best thing that he could have done, if he's going to have $100 billion for ICE funding, he should cut defense by $100 billion. It would be revenue neutral by definition. And if we're going to increase ICE funding, there has to be protocols and accountability measures that have real teeth. Otherwise, their funding should be cut by 35%.
So the Dark Conservatarian asks me, and I'm going to try to hurry this up because I got less than 2 minutes left because I'm going to put this on TikTok and YouTube.
I can only imagine that if you do a response video to this video of mine, Skylar, that you'll only be able to put it on YouTube. Sorry for it being so long, but I'm trying to be thorough here.
Fine by me.
Open borders, restricted borders. I favor restricted borders. I don't think the border wall is going to work when you can just take a saw and cut through it. Not even a $100 electric saw that can do it.
Honestly, the fact that whatever little bit of border wall that Trump did get made in his first term is only made up of really tall and skinny plates doesn't make sense to me. I thought he was gonna build an actual brick and mortar wall with some barbed wire on top and maybe only a few guards per mile patrolling it to prevent people from taking a jackhammer or whatever to it. That would work better against a $100 electrical saw, as you brought up. I'm just spitballing here. I'm not even a border wall stand like half of Trump voters were back in 2016, and I'm not sure how I feel on the idea of the border wall itself right now.
Deport illegal immigrants, 0 of them, or deport some or all of them. I'd say deport some, because it's more realistic than violating due process, snatching people up that wrongfully.
When I said all, Skylar, I was saying that with the obvious given implication that some will fall in between the cracks and that you won't be able to get literally every single last one illegal. Didn't even mention about due process being violated or whatever method is chosen in order to do so. I was talking about as many as can be reasonably found and caught. But since you did say some, does that mean if your ideal immigration law enforcement agency were to find the whereabouts of a person who overstayed their visa and is doing absolutely no effort to renew said visa, applying for a green card, even self-deport, or whatever they should be legally doing, you just let them go scot-free?
No, I wouldn't mind having them deported. Would they be the highest priority? Probably not, but I wouldn't spare them.
Who would do the job of deportation if not ICE? Hopefully an agency whose powers are severely restrained, because if you can't do your job without violating civil liberties, then you don't deserve to exist. Plain and simple.
This is what doesn't really make sense to me about people who want some level of immigration law enforcement but also want to abolish ICE. Why not reform them? It sounds like Skylar and people with similar opinions as him on this matter want there to be an ICE, just that it's not called ICE.
If ICE was abolished and we reverted the law back to before 9/11, immigration law would still be in force. There were a lot of different agencies that handled different aspects of immigration law, and I wouldn't mind streamlining the process. And if we're going to have a singular agency dealing with immigration, that's fine, but they have to respect the Constitution, they have to respect due process, they have to have extremely high standards for ICE agents who can be a member of ICE, and age limits on who can be a member. Like, I want it to be that kind of thing where it's like the Texas Rangers. Not just anybody gets to be a member of the Texas Rangers. If you want ICE to stick around, you'd have to agree to some pretty stringent reforms, but if you really want ICE to stick around, I think you'd be willing to give what I'm saying a chance. Well, that went on longer than I expected. The rest of his video I don't feel is worth really taking the time to seriously respond to, either because I didn't have enough of a disagreement or it didn't feel necessary to open Audacity every single time for each point. Anyway, that will be all for now. I hope my next video will be significantly shorter than this, and I will see you all later.
Your brother Billy
Whatever happened there?
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein?
I call it the Epstein hoax.
Are people still talking about this guy, this great
The Epstein hoax.
Jeffrey Epstein?
I call it the Epstein hoax.